Welcome to another episode of Limitless MD. I'm your host, Vikram Raya, and I'm super pumped to talk about how to organize your life and how literally no matter what happens in your life, you can stay organized, a simple sheet of paper and a thought process. And the reason why this is important is as we advance in life, we take on more responsibilities, more duties, more obligations, we have more goals. So the question is, how do we keep it all straight? And I know there's a lot of productivity tools. There's some time management strategies and techniques. As a physician, as a cardiologist, I used to go into the ICU. And when I went into the ICU, the intensive care unit, there'd be some routine patients, maybe they've had a heart attack or something. One organ system was down and you'd help support the person. I was a heart failure specialist and I would work with the team. I'd improve their heart with medications, with strategies, and I'd work with other teams. And potentially if we needed a mechanical solution to help support their heart while their heart recovered, we would do that. But I would always remember that there's patients that literally had every single thing going wrong. They would have pulmonary issues, lung issues. They'd have an infection going on at the same time. Their skin was messed up. Their kidneys had shut down. Their cardiovascular system was not working and we had to support them. They had a rhythm disturbance. There's multiple systems that were going down. Maybe they had a bleed in their GI system all at the same time. And a treatment for one would supposedly, interact with the other. And so what do you do for those kind of patients? Literally, these are what we call multi-organ failure. And so in our life, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel stressed and you get this anxiety in your chest and it comes all the way to your, the upper part of your heart, you get this feeling like, man, I got too much going on. And so the reason that is happening is one, you don't have a system to sort of capture everything. Because if you're in your head, you're dead. So what I suggest, number one, is to have a system to sort of have everything at least out of your head onto paper. So journaling is huge, right? Maybe making a list of everything and sort of what we call a capture list, capturing everything. The other thing that's going on is sometimes there's so many different things going on all at the same time, and you're trying to figure out how do you handle that. And it's really, in medicine, we've learned to prioritize, right? What is the life-saving things needed to stabilize that patient? You don't want to think about it, but they don't necessarily need a foot or a leg to live if you're thinking about life and death. So you prioritize the life-saving things. The heart and the brain usually are the number 1 and 2. And so you focus on those things. So you stabilize that. So in that sense, think about all your different things. So let's say you have things going on with your kids, your travel obligations, you're running maybe 1, 2, potentially 3 companies at the same time. You have financial issues going on. You have friends issues, family issues, and then you have your own health and vitality and self-care. Maybe you're doing volunteer work or charitable work. And then you have some purchases to make and some things around the house to take care of. So that's like 8, 9, 10, maybe 12 things all at once going on. It's figuring out, put it all on paper. And what I suggest is maybe making categories. And what I used to do for my patients was I'd create the cardiovascular system, the GI system, the genitourinary system or the kidney system, the liver system, immune system. And I'd create all the different systems and then I'd figure out all the problems that the patient was going on with each of them. And I'd prioritize what's the number one thing that we need to fix. And then who do we need to get involved? What needs to happen right then and there that day? Everything else could be delayed. Same thing. I'd have your list like, what are the things in your work that need to be addressed right now, right today? Maybe what needs to be addressed this week. And then you go through it, figure out, make your list. So everything you can think about is captured. So let's say you have maybe 100 items in your brain. You just dump it out. You vomit it out on that paper. It's all sitting there. You triage, right? You put things into boxes and compartments of sort of general categories. And in most cases, people have 6, 9. Maybe if you're busy, really active like me, maybe you're gonna have 12, maybe 15. But fine, 15 categories. Everything gets fit into those nice, clean little boxes. Then what I do is categorize, prioritize, what's important. Maybe highlight those. And then you extract maybe out of that list of 50 to 100 things, maybe 15, literally, if you just take care of these 15, your life is going to move forward. You're going to either stabilize, advance, and really, accelerate and make progress. And remember, progress equals happiness. It's not what's happening to us. It's our perception of what's happening to us. And it's the fact that if stagnation and pontification and analysis paralysis, that's what pisses us off. What gives us momentum and movement and purpose is taking action in a strategic manner. So that's what I suggest. And so I've called this strategy the life box, and I'm going to do a whole nother training on it in the future, but create sort of this life box of your top 9 to maybe 12 categories, maybe 15 if you're really, really busy, and put everything in there. categorize them, highlight them, and then extract the top 15 that no matter what category there are, you're only allowed to use 15, and you put them into a list of sort of your mighty 15 for the week. And then you just try to tackle maybe 5 a day. The whole day is spent tackling these 5, and out of those 5, there's usually one that's going to, there's an 80-20 rule. Yeah. 20% of the things you do get you 80% of the results. So of those 15, figure out break them into the top 5, middle 5, and lower 5, and really just go after the first top 5. Like literally these 5 things, if you just did these. And how do you know what's important, what's not important? Well, here's how I figure this out. The way I think about it, guys, is this. If I don't do something, there should be a major consequence if it's truly vital. But if I delay it, procrastinate it, delegate it, delete it, automate it, do something else for those tasks, and there's no consequence of it or minimal consequence, then I'm okay. So I know it's lower priority. Things that are huge or major, if you don't do it, there's a huge price to pay. There's a consequence, essentially consequential. I learned this from Tim Ferriss, and he said that when you're trying to do things in life, especially if you're really trying to make momentum and movement and trying to accomplish your big vision and goals, you sometimes have to let small bad things happen to accomplish big good things. So realize that sometimes that you may have to skip paying a parking ticket in order to make sure your kid is supported in his school for that week because there's something major going on in his classroom, or there's a major deadline and you may have to not go hang out with your buddies for a birthday that's potentially a milestone birthday so you can hit this major deadline, because if you do, your company is going to 10x in value or whatever. So sometimes you have to make some hard choices, but the more and more you start doing things upstream, the less of the urgency these things happen. And so I've talked about another podcast episode where we talk about things that are urgent and important and non-urgent and important. So right now you're sort of making everything urgent and important. So everything is quote unquote on fire, but over time you'll learn to do things ahead of time when they're not urgent, but they're still important, and you'll have less and less of these fires, if you will. So guys, I hope that helps in how thinking about your life as being in the ICU and thinking about your different problems as different organ systems, and really prioritizing and going after the most life-saving, the most critical, the most vital things. No matter what happens in your life, you can put it all on one piece of paper and tackle it with ease, effort, and intelligence. Okay? And until next time, guys, be phenomenal, be limitless. I'll catch you soon.